Hi, René here. This is not about super high-end, it's about quite normal speakers. We compare the BRO8 floor standing speakers with the Gold 100 from Monitor Audio. I admit this is not a very fair comparison because the Gold 100 is double the price of the BRO8, but by no means a totally useless endeavor. If the price tag on the BRO8 is your financial limit, go with the reviewer's recommendations. There is not very much competition around for this amount of money. But if you can afford something like the Gold 100, you'd better think twice about your purchase. In this video, I'm going to tell you the reasons why. My hi-fi dealer, Mr. Wassan, had called me and said that he could provide me a pair of BRO8 speakers for a review if I was willing to pay for the transport. That's how unfair the world is. The big channels that make a lot of money get their test samples for free. The small ones have to pay everything out of their own pockets. Nevertheless, I welcomed the friendly offer and had the speakers shipped from Bangkok to Hua Hin by taxi. After all, there is an advantage wrapped in the disadvantage. There was no moral obligation to praise the speakers to the skies. An absolutely honest review, so to speak. Two days later, the shop owner, Mr. Wassan, personally turned up, bringing along a special treasure trunk containing a pair of Gold 100. When I tried to collect some information about the BRO8, I was a bit disappointed. While absolutely each and every reviewer of some reputation dumped his opinion on the BRO3, the videos on the BRO8 remained within tolerable bounds. But the few I found all showed great enthusiasm, which was probably unavoidable after the success of the BRO3. Only the cheap audio man had shown some reserve and was immediately criticized for that. Will I get some bomb threats for my opinion about the BRO8? I hope not. Anyway, after all that praise, I had only the highest expectations when the children's coffins arrived, more than 1 meter high and weighing 21 kilograms. But that's a weight we can still handle pretty well, can't we? When the BRO3 and the BRO8 are standing next to one another, we instantaneously see that the 8 is only a pepped version of the stand-mount speakers because it has the very same 25mm silk dome tweeter, the same 16cm cellulose paper membranes for the mid-range, but the mid-range is relieved of the heavy bass work, which is taken over by 2 fiberglass bass drivers. The sensitivity is the same, 92.5 dB, good news for the owners of less powerful amplifiers. If you like to indulge in studying technical data, there are lots of reviews in the net for you. This video is all about how the BRO8 sounded in my room with my equipment and to my ears.
By nature's well, the tall redwood, high around me by a slow stream. Here I sit by myself, my mind relaxed by nature's well. Tall redwood, high around me by a slow stream.
With the Tannoys, her position is here. She's very small, which is correct in relation to the big stage. But when she sings a crescendo, her voice reaches very, very far, up to here, and overtones are carried even further. With the BRO8, it's the same. Small singer, big stage, but the voice does not go airborne that much, only about this far. Quite naturally, because the acoustic soundstage ends here. But now let's get into some serious listening. Lil's Macintosh, pack your memories and leave. Lil's sounds like a femme fatale with her smoky voice in the lower registers, but at higher pitches she can sound a little piercing on the Borea, whereas on the Gold 100 that's still all right. The three-dimensional arrangement of voice, organ and drums is more convincing on the 100 too. In Ben Webster's recording, My One and Only Love of 1967, yes, 1967, and still so fresh, the BRO8 spotlights the saxophone a bit too much for my taste, while they neglect the powerful organ. And the Gold 100 puts more velvet on the saxophone. The highest parts have convincing pressure without piercing your ears, which can occasionally happen with the BRO8s when you turn up the volume a bit too much. Finally, the incredible battlefield shown in the final round of Stravinsky's suite The Firebird played by the Tokyo Kosei Wind Orchestra, one of the best test recordings I have at hand when it comes to the handling of gigantic sound stages with innumerable musicians. You can find the track also on this sampler here. That's done it. We have to count the cost. The Borea loses control, while the Gold 100 is able to reproduce the complicated lineup of sonically highly complicated and hard to reproduce instruments with surprising authority. Kettle drums sound natural, where the BRO8 tries to turn them into small cannonballs. The Borea works like an atomizer, spraying the sound all along an alleged stage and even back and forth in fakes an overwhelming bass without delivering the compact substance necessary. We can compare this effect with manipulating the ISO settings in a mobile phone or digital camera. When you overdo that possibility, the result is a grainy, washed-out texture. The missing substance, the missing specific density can sometimes make the music sound paper-like or transparent like paper. When you crank the volume up, the music becomes louder. Thank you, but this was not really meant to be a worn-out pun. I wanted to hint at the fact that fishbone becomes elephant bones and elephant bones become dinosaur bones, but the muscles and flesh don't increase or grow with them to scale. With classical music, the groups of instruments are painstakingly dissected, but you can see the cuts. An online test in Top New Review claims that the Boreas do their best in rooms between 20 and 40 square meters. My room is 42, but I experienced the following sounds at a not exaggerated volume, just loud enough to fill my 42 square meter room. The Gold 100 has more muscle and flesh and a softer skin. That's why it sounds juicier. Higher tones do not easily tilt over into shouty aggressiveness. Natural instruments are really reminiscent of wood or bamboo or whatsoever. Horns and trumpets, marimbas and glockenspiel are not prone to assimilate and therefore hard to discern. In other words, natural timbres remain preserved pretty well. The bass of the mid-range, low-range driver of the Gold is quite naturally less overwhelming than the two bass drivers of the BRO8, but more precise and elastic. In bigger rooms, however, you may take into consideration to add a subwoofer. The rear panel of the Gold 100 is clearly more luxurious than that of the BRO8. Between the four terminals we see that these speakers want to be driven at 4 ohms, and the fact that we have a sensibility of only 86 dB forced me to turn the volume knob from 9 or 10 o'clock to at least 12 o'clock, so keep in mind that your amp should have sufficient power available to handle these stand mounts. The finish is really impressively elegant, understandably a feature to get excited about.